It is Tuesday, March 24th, and you have just joined the INFOWARRIOR with Jason Bermas. And we're going to have Alex Jones in about 5 or 10 minutes at the break, and we're going to be hammering through some of this financial news, most having to do with the GIVE Act, but there's a lot more other than the GIVE Act, and getting a lot of emails on and off. They're like, oh, this didn't really happen. No, it passed through yesterday, and they're going to be discussing it tomorrow. And it's pretty much 90% all the way through. We're going to have Alex Jones come in and explain that. Right here is the bill votes. And we had 74 yeas in the Senate House for this. This is the GIVE Act. Again, this is compulsory service for your children, for your children's children, and possibly you if you're in college or high school, depending on how quickly they put this program into place. So this should be a big eye-opener for anybody who actually thought that Obama, was just going to put this in for soup kitchens. No, this is national compulsory service. Say it with me. National compulsory service. What that means is forced servitude for the masses. People should have been paying attention when he gave his fake State of the Union address. And he said that the nation was suffering from all the high school dropouts, and that would no longer be an option to be a high school dropout. And then you find out in this bill that high schoolers are going to have to do 50 hours a year of compulsory service, forced servitude, to get them adapted and amalgamated into the system. And then in this bill, you will no longer be able to leave high school and pursue a career in whatever you would like or get a job. No, you will have to go to a secondary school, a forced secondary school. Now, if you do decide to go to college, you will still have to do 100 hours of compulsory service. Forced servitude. Say it with me. Forced servitude. So now you can pay a private institution $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 a year, depending on where you're going to school, and you will still have to be treated like a common criminal and do forced servitude. That's what the GIVE Act is. It is forced servitude. In case you didn't get it, okay? And everybody's acting like this is the best thing since breakfast. Let me just read you the first of all, this New York Times article tries to equate it with John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy never forced anybody to do anything. Following overwhelming House passage last week, the Senate tonight voted 74 to 14. Folks, there's 100 senators. 74 to 14. Think about that. That's crazy. On a procedural move that essentially guarantees a major expansion of a national service corps, a cornerstone of volunteerism that date back to the era of President Kennedy. This has nothing to do with President Kennedy. This has nothing to do with the ideals of Kennedy. This has everything to do with bringing in a civilian national security force and getting everybody, every young person out there, every future, business owner, every future homeowner, every future U.S. citizen to forcefully do their bidding, whether it's, a soup kitchen, or you'll be on the side of the road picking stuff up, or you can join the youth corps. And it's all disguised as good, but it really puts you into a state of national servitude. That's what this is. They're trying to round people up into these groups, forcing them and saying, no, you don't have a choice. And then incrementally putting different programs, more outrageous than the next, in after each other. It'll start with the soup kitchens. It'll start with help the homeless, clean up the streets, plant a tree. And it will end with tattletale on your neighbor and round people up. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas. We'll be back after this with more news on the GIVE Act and more. Geithner wants powers to wind down firms like AEG after this. All right, folks, we are back, and I am joined by the original InfoWarrior, Alex Jones, to go over this HR 38, I believe it is? 1938 bill, the GIVE Act, and basically this passed yesterday, Alex, 74 to 14 before the House, the Senate, already passed in the House last week. We covered that. And tomorrow they're going to be doing some other hearing in the morning for the finalization of this act?
Yeah, they've got to merge it with the House version.
Okay. Now, how does that work? A lot of people are going to ask.
Well, I mean, you have the House and Senate, and they pass versions of bills, and then they have to, just like with a budget, get the two to agree upon it. And there's different ways they can do that. But I mean, look at the way it's passing. 321 to 105 in the House, and what was it, 74 to
14?
Yeah, 74 to 14 in the Senate. So, I mean, they're doing this, and the issue here is when the New York Times and others report on this, it's expanding national service. They come out and report on it like it's really no big deal, and don't mention what is actually in the bill. But if you read the PrisonPlanet.com article that Paul wrote last week that has quotes from the bill, it says it sets up a federal agency to prepare. Let me find the exact quote here. The participants for mandatory service requirement for all able young people to be developed, and then you dovetail that with Defense Department announces civilian expeditionary workforce, this million-person Army, Defense Department Directive 1404.10, 1404.10, and it says management retains the authority to direct and assign civilian employees either voluntarily or involuntarily or on an unexpected basis to accomplish the DOD mission. And this talks about conscription here as well. So this is they have it where middle schoolers have to serve, high schoolers have to serve, and then 3 months a year, 18 to 25, you have to serve. And this is what Rahm Emanuel wrote about in his book. It's what he's given speeches about. It's what Obama's talked about. It's what the federal government's been setting up for decades. The Pentagon had a commission when Bill Clinton left office 8.5 years ago saying we've got to have a national draft. And so they don't call it a draft. It's just compulsory service, but it's military. And then they're also going to have in it here, they're going to have Clean Energy Corps, Education Corps, Healthy Futures Corps, Veteran Service Corps, National Civilian Community Corps. And it's also in the bill that no one has any free speech once they're conscripted. And so there's a gag order on political speech. And it says that it's going to be, we've been saying 1 million man. It's a 7 million. They say in the bill, 7 million. And Paul Watson's written a story about this. It's up on PrisonPlanet.com right now about the national slavery bill. This is more than a draft or conscription for a certain age of men. This is slavery.
Yeah, it's forced servitude.
This is forced servitude, indentured servitude. And so we've got all this going on. I mean, sometimes things hit me like a ton of bricks. You know, when I freak out and flip out sometimes on air, that's real, folks. I mean, I know what this means. I know this fits into their larger plan. It means they're really going to try, and it looks like pass, because of the way this passed by huge numbers. They've got bills to ban semi-automatic handguns and rifles. They've got bills to ban gun shows. They've got bills to do psychological testing on everybody before they can own a gun, federal licensing, turning a right into a privilege. And they're doing it all.
Yeah.
They're doing it all. And watching them, they're going to need a staged terror attack. And I can just see the tea leaves, the writing on the wall, just like I did before 9/11, that I'm sure they're going to stage big terror attacks now. I'm sure they're going to launch more wars. And we're facing something we haven't seen since Hitler or Stalin. And it's right here in America. And I have a family, and it just makes me so angry to know that this is really happening. And just to see that our own, quote, alternative media or patriot movement hasn't made a bigger deal about this. I'm freaked out that we're the main people covering this.
Well, I mean, let's look at Obama. He got up on stage with his fake State of the Union a couple months ago, and he said, you know, this country's going down, and it's because of all these high school dropouts, and then he said that was no longer going to be an option. And then he said that people out of high school would no longer have the option just to leave high school, that they would be forced into a secondary school, whether that be college or a trade school or something like a BOCES in high school. Now, they're going to have to set those things up. This seems to be part of this.
Yeah, well, that's how they're pushing it, is we're going to make you go to college. But if you read it, they're going to decide what you do in social engineering, and most of it's military.
Yes.
7 million people in the bill, and then this weekend, 13 million of us people knocking on doors. Will you pledge to support Obama to save the country? So it's clear, if you don't pledge, see, you're the person hurting the country, not the bankers. And yeah, it's all about high school dropouts causing the problem. It's not the bankers openly setting. I mean, I just did an hour-long interview with the National Post, one of the biggest papers in Canada. And the guy had to admit, he goes, no, I know everything you're talking about is documented. They've announced they're putting troops on the streets of Canada and England and the U.S. This is global. This is the same management plan the same team, and they're openly announcing global currencies. We'll pay our taxes to a new bank of the world. It's nightmarish. I can't believe that it has to happen, that the public doesn't know what tyranny is and doesn't understand that this is tyranny. I mean, we don't have time to screw around anymore, man. This isn't just some boss hog tyranny, some corruption, which would be bad enough. This is scientific, oppressive crap. And the federal government in the last 6-7 years has hired former head of the Stasi, Marcus Wolf, before he died, to consult on this. England's announced 66,000 spies to spy on their neighbors. They hired Primakov, the former head of the KGB. I mean, they're really
looking for an intelligence czar. That's what they were with the KGB guy. They're like, ooh, well, how can we set up an intelligence czar here at home? And you talking about military and schools, I got this story out of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and this is